welcome to Unified Minor League week number 5. My name is Shinkari, and I'm joined by Nightstar. We're going to give this another try. We have two teams lined up for y'all tonight. Depth Esports goes up against MG Eclipse. We're ready to get this series underway. We got some playoff implications between these two teams. We're ready to get it underway. Nightstar, are you ready?
Yeah, I mean, it took a little bit to get underway, but as you mentioned, this is an important series. Both of these teams are locked in for playoffs at 3-1. However, seeding is still up in the air. And when it comes to a 16-team bracket, you do want any small advantage you can get, whether or not it's through the first game side selection, making sure you're on a comfortable side, or just making sure you are a higher seed to be able to play one of those perhaps quote unquote weaker teams.
Yeah, it's definitely looking between these two teams right now, both at 3-1 in record. But, you know, whoever comes out on top here is probably going to be securing either the second or the third seat. So this is going to be a pretty important match for both those folks as we get into picks and bans right here. What are you expecting coming out of what? Do you have any expectations coming out of this, coming out of these first set of picks and bans here?
Well, I expect some attention to be turned over towards that MF pick. MF pick has been a very prevalent pick at Worlds, but it's still, I mean, even on our current patches, very, very powerful. It's a nice controlling pick, and it just allows you to play very flexible. If you want to play weak side top, then you can really funnel resources into MF because she can be lane dominant. But if you want to play away from her, she has plenty of wave clear and also the early game presence to then, well, you can free up your support to make roams elsewhere and whatnot. Looking at these early bans, we have Echo Set for the side of MGE and or Depth Esports, and for the side of MG Eclipse, they've gone for Xin, Riven, and Nami. Nami, one of those picks that I would say is a way to deny the Lucian pick as well, because that's the most prevalent of the pairings to go with this champion. And you can also play Nami with a couple other supports or AD carries, but it does mean Yuumi has been left available, and Yuumi has been also another pick extremely prevalent at Worlds. But then we get the responding MF pick.
Yeah, Misfortune, like you said, very powerful pick and fits with a lot of supports right now, a whole lot of them. One of them being Leona, of course, locking that in, going to be a very powerful pick. That ultimate combo is very strong once you get that off, and Leona is a very good roaming support if you need her to roam around the map. And maybe we'll see Mind Warrior doing that this game, as Kronos is going to be locking in the Ezreal for bags down in the bot lane, as this is going to be a very annoying bot lane to deal with. A whole lot of poke damages. Gangplank is going to come in as the last pick for Depth in this first round of picks here.
So Yuumi Ezreal has a lot of scaling potential, a lot of harass. The big thing here is the fact that MG Eclipse, they do have a good lane to deal with it, right? They have the hard engage coming in from Leona, and they have plenty of burst damage early on from this MF. And these two picks, what is also underrated is how much magic damage that they do bring. So usually as an AD carry, you are bringing in something like an armor rune in that secondary or in your stat tree, but it's probably more beneficial when you come across this lane in particular to go for the magic resistance, because MF passive does magic damage, and also the Leona passive. As we go into second phase of bans, we have the Talon taking off, another big jungle pick at the moment, and then we also have the Sylas. And I mean, it's understandable to see why Sylas is taken off, right? You have the GP on your squad, and you also have the Yuumi. These are two very, very strong ults to go ahead and steal away here.
Yeah, this is once again the Silas. I agree with you 100%. Silas is really, really good against teams that have very strong ultimates. This also communicates to me that maybe these last two picks that Depth is looking for here might have some strong ultimates as well. So we'll have to look for that as well. The
Mhm.
Hecarim being banned away now from Kronos here, who does have a bit of that in their play history. Vi being the final ban here. Not exactly sure where that is targeted at, but surely a champion that folks have been like, well, if Trendemir's not available, you can definitely play Vi still. So definitely a champion to take it off the table, as Antija here is going to lock in Graves for Boogster here.
Graves coming in has still some flexibility. You can play him into the mid lane. You can play him into the jungle. The the Alawi is one of those big one tricks for Jinjin, so I expect him to pilot that champion. I don't expect any sort of shenanigans moving it into the mid lane here, but against Syndra, this is actually a fairly nice matchup for Graves because once he hits that Vampiric Scepter, he can really out-sustain the DPS coming in from Syndra early on, and that makes him very, very hard to shove out of lane if they do want to go that direction. But Heppo has been playing a whole lot of control mages, so as maybe expected, he's gone for the Orianna pick rather than flexing this Graves.
Yeah, and I think this is a pretty good pickup as well. Once again, it's another ultimate that benefits Misfortune a whole lot, and they have a decent ball delivery system with Boogster or with Leona on.
Mhm.
It's definitely going to be a very good pickup here, and I'm liking this composition here. I believe Boogster is going to be the one picking up the Graves here, as like you said, Jinjin Lunk is a bit of a one trick on Alawi, has about 187 games on that champ. So
Yep.
that's though definitely going into the top lane. So this team composition that MG Eclipse have drafted here looking pretty good. I just am worried that maybe some side lane pressure from Depth is going to really throw a wrench in their 5v5 team composition or the 5v5 fights that they're looking for.
Yeah, so my opinion is that I actually think that the side of Death, they've got the stronger 5v5 comp because you have
Okay.
Yumi, Ezreal, and GP, very powerful champions in the 5v5 situations. And on the flip side, the Lowy pick is really, really good into the GP in particular because there's really nothing for him to orange in this matchup except
Right.
for damage, and Alawi just brings infinite amounts of that. So if Jinjin does get ahead, look for him to really steamroll and set the tone up in that top side. Now, if this GP does fall behind, he's going to be put into a situation where he has to kind of constantly look to move around, try and find a lane to get farm. And then this Poppy pick really ties things all together because you mentioned the Leona being a good ball delivery system. Well, the Poppy, if placed in the right spot, completely blocks that out. So there's no way to get that ball into the team because Alawi, such a short range hop, you're not reliably making that ball delivery system your Alawi.
Right. Yeah, and allowing most of the time doesn't even want to go into the middle of the team fight, right?
Hmm.
She's mostly just waiting for people to come to her, and then
Yeah.
she'll tear out a soul, pop her ultimate, and then, Tentacle City. But it's just really, you're right. Like it's just gonna be really tough for if Leona has her Zenith Blade stuffed, then it's just gonna be really tough for actually throwing that ball delivery system with command defend, right? Then Oriana's going to have to rely on being closer to the team fight to actually use
Yep.
that shockwave in a meaningful way.
Yeah, so I think Deft Esports with this composition, they're looking to play a little bit defensive. They're trying to neutralize a lot of the early engage coming in from the side of MG Eclipse and then turning because again, they have a lot of control with these ultimates, with the amount of range they have as well coming in from these champions that as long as they maintain their space and they have plenty of ways to do so, they will come out on top in a lot of these matchups. So look for MG Eclipse to try and be aggressors in the lane phase, try and push the tempo, funnel a lot of resources in particular into this Alawi pick, but at the same time, because of the MF Leona, perhaps look for them to play early on very aggressive to try and get a couple kills on this Ezreal Yumi, because if that happens, it's really, really difficult for Ezreal Yumi to get back into this lane.
Yeah, at that point, when an Ezreal falls behind, they're more so just banking on their tier of the goddess stacking up as fast as possible because that Muramana is going to be their way back into the game, right? So it's going to be a real tough time. And if that Ezreal falls behind, that Yumi's going to be feeling the pain as well, right? Yumi's going to have to go around and maybe attach to the jungler in order to maybe find some gold here and there. But that also, once again, like if Ezreal's falling behind, that does just make the Ezreal lane just a little bit more tough. I'm really honestly, I'm really excited for the MG Eclipse composition here. I love team compositions that have a very clear engage and have lots of good follow-up to go along with it. Jin Jin Lunk is also on a comfort pick, to say the least, right? And you said that this is a very good matchup for the Alawi in the top lane as well. And you know, I just love wombo combos too. I can't deny that, like, Solar Flare, Zenith Blade into Command Shockwave with a bullet time to back it up isn't cool, right? That just sounds awesome. So I'm super excited for both of these team compositions here, and I'm really, really excited to see if we're going to see. But we're about to get into the Rift. Let's see how this all plays out.
Game number 1, Depth Esports taking on MG Eclipse. This is a game or series to determine who will at least be guaranteed themselves this second seed. And I mean, MG Eclipse, they have all the makings to run away with this game number 1, because even with this nice scaling coming in from Depth in the 5v5 situation, again, we highlighted these individual lane matchups. If things go south early on, before level 4, before level 6, you can definitely see this Rift being on fire for the side of Death, and they will be scrambling to try and salvage it.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Right off the bat, we have a 5-point start for both these teams. Don't really looking for any sort of aggressive warding early on, just some rather defensive ones in the river. Should be a relatively slow start, right? Graves not exactly known for the early ganks, likes to hyper farm and get through this first clear as fast as possible, and then maybe show up to a lane if something is in his favor. But you know, for the most part, we're going to see a pretty quiet start from Boogster, and maybe something a little bit more from Kronos on the other side. Poppy, I think, has a little bit of a better gank into some of these lanes, but we'll have to see, honestly.
Yeah, while Poppy is going to be a bit of a better ganker than the Graves, the big thing is just trying to figure out where the setup is going to come from when you are trying to gank these lanes, right? Because yes, the Syndra can line up a stun, a scatter a weak on this Orianna, but if you look in these other lanes, maybe you get a slow with the Yuumi, but it's really not great lockdown setup for then the Poppy to then pin someone to the wall, apply that CC. Now up in this top side, surprisingly enough, we are seeing the Grasp of the Undying on the GP, and while it's like an okay rune, it's definitely got a big nerf because of the fact the Q doesn't count as a melee auto, it indeed counts as a range, so you're not getting as much value from this rune anymore.
Yeah, and maybe that Jolini was looking for just a little bit extra defenses in the tree for that particular rune. But yeah, I definitely agree. It's just really tough to really be successful with Grasp anymore. But Mind Warrior in the mid lane already. He's going to land that stun. Zenith Blade onto the movement here. The Ignite is taken incredibly low. Not going to be able to get the kill this time. So that's actually a really, really good early gank from Mind Warrior here. Going to force Syndra to back already and spent the flash.
And it's a really nice play coming in from Mind Warrior. Look at the vision that they have set up. They've set up a ward on the Raptors, and they've also set one into that tri-bush. And against the Yuumi, you're not really worried about this MF getting hard punished because it is a Yuumi. Yes, later on, it's going to be so annoying to deal with because the Ezreal can just run you down and also heal a lot at the same time. But at level 2, the Leona can do things, but the Yuumi certainly cannot.
Yeah, a lot of Yumi's good roaming potentials just is going to have to come from coordinating backs with the jungler, because the Yumi's going to have to... Ooh, wait a minute. Zenith Blade on the backs here, forced to flash away again. Uses the cleanse as well. Mind Warrior just eating up every single summoner spell in the beginning of this game. Real well played by Mind Warrior early on. Yeah, this is definitely looking to be a game where it just seems like MGE is in control in these early levels here.
Really, once again, really nice play coming in from Mind Warrior, controlling the map. But, I mean, it is Yuumi, of course. They got decent amounts of sustain, so you're really just looking for one more all-in to try and force them out here if you are the bot lane of MGE. Or very shortly, we're going to see Mind Warrior just really explore the map rather than take its time down into the spot side.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen it once from Mind Warrior here, and I think being able to shut down the Syndra is what MGE might be looking for. That's what that early roam tells me from Mind Warrior. That the second that Leona and MF get a good chance to back, it's going to be Mind Warrior probably going mid, is my guess at least.
And not a surprising move if that does happen, as supports do like to make their mid roams, especially at this level. You're not necessarily seeing some big time roams up in the top side or over to Herald. That's usually more of a pro focus. These big rotations,
yeah,
but
we do have a gank here from Bookster, putting a bit of
no
damage
mana
on a movement here. Taking movement pretty low. Once again, movement doesn't have that flash, but now their mana is real low and their health bar is below 50%. They're going to have to start chugging some potions if they want to stay in this lane.
No teleport available and no corrupting potions on him, so he's going to be forced in a position where he wants to take these last couple minions and then recall. However, Orianna, with where she is in her build, is going to be able to complete that lost chapter, and that's such a big lane difference, because once this Syndra does recall, she's not going to be close to that item, so she's actually relegated towards a tier, towards a mana crystal. So when it comes to build paths, this Syndra very far behind.
Yeah, I mean, the Lost Chapter is an insanely important item for mages in the mid lane right now. A lot of mana regeneration items from the mid lane have been taken away or just kind of not been made as efficient. That's why we've seen a whole lot of tiers come out as well, just to stay in this lane a whole lot longer, you know. And with the Lost Chapter being completed by Orianna here, she now is able to stay in this lane a whole lot longer than Syndra will with all that mana regeneration, like you said. And now they're picking up the Infernal Drake. Real good Drake to get by itself. Real good. Not as good as a Cloud Drake, but definitely a good first one to start with. Ocean Drake is next, which means we have either Mountain or Cloud on the menu tonight for possible souls, but we'll have to see in just a little bit as the next dragon spawn about 4.5. Let's see where that one goes.
Yeah, Mountain will be an interesting soul if that does come up on the table, because of how Mountain Rift interacts with these compositions. There's a lot of area control, a lot of area denial, big AoE ultimate, so that will make these fights a lot more dicey and a lot more explosive because of these smaller corridor areas. But at the moment, not too much of a gold lead, even though we have seen a lot of aggression come out of.
Ooh, yeah, Jin Fung is going to throw out the ultimate into the top lane. That Spirit is immediately going to go down, but Gangplank taking a whole decent chunk of damage, but not going to go below half HP. Definitely going to feel the pain for it a little bit longer, but once again, not the most impactful. Not going to be able to find a kill in the top lane.
Yeah, and the big thing here is there's still, I mean, he ends up just popping all his corrupting potions in this instance. And what you're really looking for is Graves perhaps turning his attention towards this top side to help him out. Usually at this point in the game, like, it would be great to have the Leona roam up topside, but it is such a long ways that usually these supports aren't comfortable with taking such a risky play and hope that their AD carries don't run it down, because in this situation, if you do leave an MF by yourself, because level 6 is coming up on the Ezreal, on this Yuumi, there's definitely a possible 2v1 threat.
Yeah, but right now the solo experience is in favor of Anti-Cha right now in this bot lane on the Misfortune. Definitely going to be a fight pretty soon. I think Leona might be down in experience right now just because she spent some time roaming around but wasn't able to find anything. But I think Zenith Blade should be enough. Ooh, they're going pretty deep in. Let's see. Okay, Make It Rain comes across. Anti-Cha trying to get into range to throw out that bullet time, but not going to be able to find it this time. Mind Warrior does not grab any summoner spells, so it looks like Bags is just going to take a bit of harass, a little bit of that trade damage, and just back away.
Yeah, and you're already starting to see this Ezreal Yuumi starting to come online, right? Because you're taking chunks of damage, but you're healing up, and then you're also able to chase.
Yeah, we have a teleport coming down. Two of them make it. They're really looking for this bot lane right here. That's a huge shockwave. Bullet time is going to come across. First blood goes over to Misfortune. Bags and Ben and Lil Ben are in some trouble right now, taking incredibly low. They're going to go down, and now all that's left is a cat who's good, free to a good home in hell. Graves is going to be picking up that double kill. 3 for nothing in the bot lane.
A double teleport called by MG Eclipse, and while Movement did channel his own, it's just not in the right spot. He isn't able to disengage for his team, and it was a very, very good call coming in from MG Eclipse. Yeah, this is a team that, you know, these are very familiar names to this organization, so it's not surprising that they are able to really make these team calls in such a fashion. But the big thing here is you've given up a little bit up in that top side. You look at that CS differential, it is heavily favoring Joe, and Jin, even though this is a good matchup for him, when you do give up a lot of EXP advantage and CS advantage, like, look, if you compare items, you have steel cap boots to a Trinity Force, and Trinity Force is such a nice spike here for this GP.
Yeah, Trinity Force is a very, very good item. Obviously, there's not a whole lot of tanks on the opposing side, so the Divine Thunder is not going to be as useful. The Trinity Force also favoring a little bit longer team fights, so we'll have to see if I think Ezreal might be looking for the Divine Thunder if they need that type of damage, but I think once again the Trinity Force, very, very good item for Gangplank right now. As Mind Warrior in the mid lane going to throw down the full stun combo. They're going to throw out a shockwave just to be safe. Mind Warrior is going to be the one picking up the kill in the mid lane, as the mid laner Heppo was not able to secure it. So it's still a kill though. 1 for nothing in the mid lane. Mind Warrior doing some really, really good roams.
Really nice roams here. And I mean, it was a little bit close there. Movement almost able to secure a turn kill, but now they're going to turn their attention over to this Ocean Dragon.
Yeah, it's getting pretty close here. Yeah, Graves is on the outside here. The Zenith Blade comes in, but the blue team is going to be able to secure it. Nietzsche is trying to get on the bags here. Yeah, but the movement is just so good. Chrono's forced to flash over the wall, so I think you take that, but at the end of the day, it's still an Ocean Dragon going over to the blue team here, so they come out on top, even if they do have to spend a couple summoners in order to do so, and which means Cloud Soul is now the soul of this map.
Cloud Soul going to help a little bit or disengage a little bit for both of these squads because of the extra movement speed shrines in some of these jungle areas. And at the same time, one of the big things you are concerned about from Death is if we give up a couple of these next dragons, how dangerous is it going to be? Well, it's not stats that you're going to give up, so that's a nice thing, but at the same time, you look at how ultimate reliant MGE are, and I mean, both of these teams, right? And having that extra ult cooldown is going to be beneficial in that sense. You look at this top lane, a lot of the harass damage, you can just constantly look to pull out the soul and use your ultimate immediately if you have that extra cooldown on that Alawi. Of course, the Leona is going to be able to non-stop engage. The Orianna will be able to non-stop engage and kind of fish for ults like that. But, of course, it doesn't have the Cloud Dragon right now. But if you are able to accumulate a couple more, that's what you'll be able to do.
Yeah, the Heplock throwing out the Shockwave there. Coming up just a little bit short, was trying to set up for Mind Warrior to throw out maybe a Zenith Blade at the end of that. But, but now we got Chronos ganking into the mid lane. But Heppo's too fast for him. Gonna get that fancy feet over down towards the river, walk back towards the turn lane.
Yeah, and remember we talked about, hey, this Poppy, while has a better time ganking than a Graves, the issue is there's not a whole lot of setup coming in from Death Esports. This Poppy is putting in a situation where she is essentially just a neutralizing factor. She's not here to snowball lanes. It's just to make sure lanes don't get too far out of control. But the big thing here is now we are at a 3,000 gold deficit. If we could pull up the gold, like this Graves is just so far ahead. You're looking almost 2k gold lead. And yes, this top lane is suffering by all means, but the rest of the map in great shape to be able to snowball in this mid game.
Yeah, and even though Jinjin Lunk has been behind this whole time, still able to threaten GP here. And I think that's at least somewhat of a win, right? Like, you're behind in gold, but you're still able to at least put down some good harass. Alawi definitely pretty safe in doing so. But now, Luke's are diving on the Chronos. It's going to be the Solar Flare coming down. That's the Command Shockwave as well. Poppy's in a whole lot of trouble trying to get a stun. It lands it, but it's not going to save him this time. The GP ultimate came down as well, but they're not going to keep diving. That's a 1-for-0 around the Raptors, and a pretty good pickup as well for the red team.
GP ult expended to try and bail his jungler out of that
Wait a minute.
situation.
Flash Zenith Blade over the wall. They're underneath turret. Oh, Boogster's going to be the one picking up the kill. They tried to throw out the Cinder ultimate as a last-ditch effort, but not going to be able to pick it up. That's 2 kills on that side of the map. So now they're just roaming their way over to this Rift Herald. That's probably going to be an easy pickup considering GP just reset.
That's a big pickup there, and really just movement, being a little bit ignorant, being a little bit lax in his approach to the lane, knowing that they were around that Raptor area. And when you do have that flash available from the Leona with the composition that has to snowball off this early game, the Leona is just going to try and go for that Hail Mary, try and shut you down right here, right now. And that's what happens. That's just yet another great play coming in from Mind Warrior as he's just setting his team up for success. Has 5 out of 6 KP in this early game.
Yeah, and Mind Warrior's been doing a real good job. I just want to reiterate that fact because it's just it's kind of been completely different from the other side here. Lil Ben really can't leave Bags right now. He's tethered to him for a long time. It has been in this bot lane, but they haven't really been able to get any really big advantages over this Misfortune right now. Misfortune still up in CS if we're just looking at the CS numbers, right? Ahead by 8 CS right now. They haven't really been able to get anything substantial in this bot lane by leaving Lil Ben down there. So I wonder if this is just more of a constraint of Yuumi or whether they're just really trying to make sure that this Ezreal doesn't die in this bot lane to Misfortune, who is definitely ahead in gold.
Yeah, and you're seeing that, okay.
Wait, Boogster dashing forward, make it rain, gonna dash over to the other side here. Nearsighted slowed up for a little bit longer. Here comes the Lost Chapter. They might be able to turn some damage around a Boogster here, but look at the damage on the Bags, already below half HP. Use that Gale Force. There's the bullet time as well. Bags is gonna be taking really low. Heppo is along on the seal. Command attack is gonna be able to pick up the kill on Ezreal, and now Yumi's in some trouble. Solar Flare gonna come down. Anti-Cha is gonna be the one picking up the kill. It's a double kill in the bot lane. They're gonna get first turret as well. This is a huge swing for MG. Eclipse here is now they're up 6,000 gold.
And what started as snowball is really looking like an avalanche here for Eclipse, really taking advantage of this gold lead and starting to run away with it. Oh, Jovini, yes, he's able to take some of these shorter trades, but when it looks to be more of these extended trades. That's where Jinjin is finding success. At the very least, able to heal up some of it with this Graves pick, but now Bags, he has to be careful here because they can take tower and look to collapse onto him. And yeah, this map is starting to go on fire.
Oh yeah, there's that block from Poppy you were just talking about earlier. Gonna be able to save Kronos' life right now as he's not even saving his own jungle here as Heppo throws out so much damage. Gonna be able to pick up that kill on a Syndra. This is a really, really good game for MG Eclipse right now as they are just claiming so much territory away from depth right now. They're just roaming into this mid lane. This mid lane does not have a whole lot of HP on this turret right now. Ooh, wait a minute. Zenith Blade onto Bags here. Forced to use that cleanse. Going to get solar flared as well. Taken real low. Can they find that last bit of damage? Absolutely. They're going to get that mid lane turret. They pick up another kill. This is non-stop action from MG Eclipse as they continue to take more and more from depth.
Really just nice play coming in from MG Eclipse. They are turning on the Jets, and it's just been a very, very fast-paced game. Once they hit that mid-game, once that first tower got real low, they really put on the Jets. And now you see this map is in complete tatters for the side of death. And I mean, when you look at this draft, it's still a good scaling draft, right? But you need to make some early moves. Usually when you look at scaling drafts, you immediately think, all right, as long as we don't lose the game, we're in a fine spot. But you also need to make a couple plays to make sure you're not losing the game. Maybe get a small advantage here or there, but we never saw any of that. The one play they tried to make in that bottom lane, responding with a teleport, wasn't effective, and now Bags is dead again.
Bags might be in a whole lot of trouble. That's the stun, Zenith Blade, Solar Flare, the whole kitchen sink, gonna deal a whole bunch of damage to Yumi. Not gonna be able to find the kill. They're diving into bullet time right now. They're gonna stun up Kronos here as they're gonna Gale Force forward, pick up that kill. Lil Ben's trying to dash over to movement, but he's going to die. Double kill for the Misfortune. Are they gonna look for the Syndra underneath the tier 3 turret? That's gonna be Leona looking for more. Her W is popped. She's got those defensive. It's gone. Movement's gonna be able to pick up a kill. Heppo is still looking for it. He's on the wrong side of some turrets. He's kind of forced into doing so right now, but it doesn't look like he's able to pick up that kill this time. Boogster is going to be the one taking up the turret. Yeah, the red team is just like, yeah, okay, I mean, we didn't get the kill on a Syndra, but we were able to get the tier 2 turret. So at the end of the day, it's a 2-for-1, and the blue team loses a turret.
They've lost a lot, but at the very least, they are on the board. They've got a kill in their pockets.
Yeah,
that's
they're on the scoreboard. They're definitely on the scoreboard.
That's the only thing good to say here.
Yeah, it's really looking tough for depth right now. We are now hitting the 21-minute mark, and they've lost nearly every tier 2. Shelly was really close to taking that top tier 2 turret as well, but that's not going to be the one that's going to be healing up. So now the red team, with these advantages in the bot and mid, now are free to kind of go for this Baron that have just spawned because they're up 10,000 gold right now. They can very easily take it as well. I mean, they've got Orianna, they've got Misfortune, they have a lot of decent, consistent damage here that they could very easily take this Baron if they looked for it.
They're just so far ahead. They have more than enough damage at this point in the game. Very, very accelerated, and even the one lane that they had advantages with in Jinjin, well, I mean, he needs a lot more. Or Jolini.
Yeah.
Having an advantage. Like, he's from position, but GP can only do so much. His ult is a long cooldown. It's not like he can clear every single wave. He's not Ziggs, where his ult can be exceptionally low cooldown after a certain point. He has just really long timers to work around, but he needs to find a way to work those timers at the moment because the rest of the team, they're in really desperate times. At the very least, they have that second dragon, that ocean dragon, to slow down that soul, because if that was not the case, MGE would be looking at a soul dragon right now.
Yeah, and this is actually really good right now because Graves is just taking the dragon by himself. He's so far ahead. He even has the Yomu's go. Yeah, Bags is, oh no. Come on, the guy has a family. Okay, he's gonna be able to dash over the wall here, gonna be fine, but Poppy really isn't. His Boogster is gonna be going on a rampage, picking up another kill onto Poppy. Ezreal might have gotten out alive, but Poppy went in to save your life, and now it looks like they're gonna be the one falling, and they're walking towards Baron, and it looks like they might be doing that right now. Yep, they're doing the whole Baron march right down. Yep, there they go. This is a real nice time to pick that up. The enemy jungler is dead. You are so far ahead. This is a real easy pickup.
I mean, there's really nothing stopping you, right? They aren't going to walk through all of that way just to try and contest this Baron buff. They're going to hope that pick of GP ult will take it, but it just doesn't do that much damage at this point in the game, at least not from one tick. And now I have to be a little bit critical about this Poppy pick, right? Because this, while thematically worked really well with this team, you didn't see Chronos try and take aggressive moves, trying to gank some of these lanes. I touched upon it in draft, but just the fact that, well, he's got no setup. But at the same time, when you go Dark Harvest, when you are going the Divine Sunder, you have to be aggressive. You can't sit back because this is a very suboptimal scaling build. If you're looking to play back, play the waiting game, you should be looking at Frostfire Gauntlet to play more of this tank
Anti-Cha doing so much damage onto Syndra in the mid lane, gonna immediately get punished. Chronos actually picking up a pretty big shutdown for themselves. I think I saw 1,000 gold being popped up for them. That's a real huge pickup for them in the mid lane there. But yeah, you're right. This Chronos going Dark Harvest, I wanted to point that out at some point in this game. But like the Dark Harvest is good if you're able to get those early stacks, get that damage so that later on in the game, you know, especially with the rest of these scaling characters here, right? You're going to be looking to do a decent chunk of damage, especially with that Divine Sunderer. But yeah, I totally agree. Maybe Frostfire Gauntlet might have been a better pickup here for Chronos.
And you just envision it, how it works with the composition. With this Yuumi, you'd be able to just kind of piggyback onto her, and you'd be really unkillable as this Poppy. But because of the Divine Sunder, you don't have the extra stats to back up this healing, back up that extra move speed to try and chase down some of these targets, because if you're running at them, you will just immediately blow up. So while compositionally and draft wise it looks good, execution wise it really fell short in this game number one. And you could even say it's very similar to what we saw at Worlds today. And Chronos, he does get ulted, will be able to walk away, but another summoner burned on this Syndra, and it looks like we're kind of getting into a bit of a formality here as they're trying to end the game.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. I mean, a team fight will have to happen eventually. Like, this red team has the Baron buff for just a little bit longer here. They're so incredibly strong. If they're not already, I mean, look at this bot lane as well with Alawi. Already dealing a decent chunk of damage to Jolini. Gonna have to force him away from this wave. They have a wave in the bot lane, and Graves is ready to prep that wave in the top. Like, they're losing on all sides, and they're gonna have to pull the trigger eventually. And I love what MG Eclipse is doing here. They're not really making any sort of engagements that they don't have to, right? They already have the minions. They already have the pressure and the damage. Now Depth has to engage into them, and it's going to be a losing team fight.
It'll be a rough team fight, but it might be able to find a 1v1. But on the flip side,
yeah, that's a whole lot of damage immediately onto Syndra there, as Chronos is now the next target. He's already taken so much. Graves flashing forward, going to dash forward as well, going to get that reload. That's going to be the last bit of damage. Bags is now in some trouble again, as now Boogster diving underneath the turret looking for him, going to throw out that ultimate, not going to be able to land the kill on the Bags now. So yeah, they still can't find it, as the rest of the red team pushes in through the top side. They have a wave in the mid. It looks like they might just be resetting and maybe looking to fight around this Dragon Soul right now.
just really taking things slow because they can afford to take things slow. If this was maybe a 3,000 or a 5,000 gold lead, maybe we'd be talking about MGE might need to look to go for that one last Hail Mary, try and end the game now rather than later, but we're sitting at 15k gold.
Yeah.
Like, you can take all the time you want because the wallets are just that heavy, the safe is just that large, and there's nothing stopping this pile of cash from just drowning Death Esports.
Yeah, basically they're dropping Scrooge McDuck's whole life savings onto the enemy team right now. Like that's the big difference right now. It's like I would love to talk about how they could possibly mechanically outplay, but there gets to a point where 15,000 gold, that is such a huge difference right now as movement is already taken incredibly low here. And actually, Mind Warrior is actually making a really good play right now, stopping the back from Poppy, keeping Kronos from entering this fight right now. And now that they're here, this is actually a real big fight. That's the start. That's going to be Kronos immediately taken down by that huge bullet time as well. So now it's a 5v4 underneath these turrets trying to get this damage through, but they don't exactly have a wave just yet. Arcane Barrage comes across. Let's see. Okay, there's the first turret coming down. Let's see if it's going to be the second. Dax is looking for an engage here, but that's going to be a whole lot of damage onto the Ezreal. Yumi almost immediately taken down. GP is going to be the next to follow. We're going to get a bit of a spectator bug as that's going to be game 1 going over to MG Eclipse. What a great, amazing game. What a great start to this best of 3.
And Shinkari, like MG Eclipse, yes, the draft was really good coming in from Deft Esports, but you need ways to execute around this draft, and their execution was non-existent.
Yeah.
They just kind of sat there, they waited for the game to play out, and I don't even know if they did get into game. If you look at Kronos, he never entered the game. He probably ended the game with maybe 2 Dark Harvest stacks, and it was just all around sheer dominance coming in from MG Eclipse. They could not stop Mind as he just ran over the entire map.
Yeah, and it was crazy. Mind Warrior has to be my MVP for this game. He might as well have just been the ganking jungler that was for MG Eclipse, right? Where we were like, oh, we'll probably not see anything from Graves, but all the action was set up by Leona there. And you know, I have to agree that Depth just really didn't feel like they were actually playing League of Legends. Like they were all like in their own individual lanes. Yep. They were farming and killing creeps, and they were like attacking the enemy champions with abilities, but that entire laning phase felt like they just weren't making plays. They were just letting Mind Warrior go wherever they wanted. They weren't really reacting, and it just felt like Kronos, who was on this champion that felt like could have been making some good early picks, was just not doing anything.
Yeah, he came out really, really flat there. They weren't able to establish defensive vision, which would have been key. And also this Yumi pick, I have to be critical of that as well, because when you look at the world split, the reason why Yumi has been so dominant is because you actually do leave lane. You just attach yourself onto the jungler and you run around as this really 1.5 champion. So if you ever see the other jungler, you have the advantage because you are greater than that other individual. But we never saw that. It was always Yumi attaching onto the Ezreal. And this Ezreal Yumi pick, while scales incredibly powerfully, wasn't able to get anything done. They weren't able to apply turret pressure because it is an MF, and they weren't also able to rotate mid to move the Syndra out of the lane, to try her and free her up. She was under so much pressure and wasn't able to, and she just collapsed under all of it.
Yeah, but with that, we are going to take just a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be in picks and bans of game 2 of Depth Esports versus MG Eclipse. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
I noticed I drink a lot of sodas when I'm gaming. Might as well drink something that's good for me. Head over to drinkolipop.com and order your favorite flavor.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Unified Minor League. My name is Shinkari. I'm joined by Nightstar, and if you're joining us for the first time, Depth Esports was not able to come even close to MG Eclipse in that game one. Not exactly their best showing, but still, we soldier on, and so much Depth Esports. MG Eclipse having a real good game one for themselves, coming out 15,000 gold on top, and now these two teams fighting for better placing in the playoffs are ready to go going into game number 2. Nightstar, are you ready?
Depth Esports, they're going to have to dig deep here because that game number 1 was not a good showing whatsoever. And it's hard to even pick out a bright spot, right? Yes, Joe, he was able to win lane. He got advantages. He just wasn't able to use them
Yeah.
because of how the rest of the map fell apart. So you can't even say, all right, well, we can just hard play around Joe because the rest of the team can't hold up their end of the bargain. Then it doesn't matter how far top lane is ahead because, I mean, it's top lane. Like,
Yeah.
can they really carry? Are they actually a lane?
I mean, we definitely have been seeing a whole lot more attention into the top lane, especially around the world's meta, and especially when folks,
Oh, yeah.
have a roaming support like Mind Warrior was in that previous game. We'll have to see, though, how this draft changes up. I'm expecting Kronos to maybe be on a jungler. They'll have maybe a larger impact in this game overall. That Poppy, I wasn't exactly impressed by in the previous game. I'll probably see a ban away from Leona and Mind Warrior. That's also my guess as well. Yeah, I think those are a couple of my guesses here from the changes in picks and bans.
For Depth Esports, this time around, they are going to be on the red side. So, got a little bit of more flexibility when it comes to the draft, being able to answer some things from MGE. And I did like how they responded in draft phase against MGE because we saw the Poppy come out, really nice pick where it was locked in. And then you also got powerful picks like the Yuumi. You paired it with an Ezreal. So thematically, it all worked out in the draft. So I don't think draft is necessarily an issue, but we need to see a little bit more in-game. And there's only so much that can be showcased in this phase.
Yeah, right off the bat, we are still seeing a lot of the similar bans as we saw before. Xin Zhao and Riven being taken away from Jolini in the top lane. That's his most played character at 111 games with a 64% win rate. Most of the time when you see folks with over 100 games on a particular champion, they're usually sitting around 50 or relatively close to that. 64 is pretty good for 100 games on a particular champion. So that's definitely a character you don't want to send over to the other side. And they're just like Magic, even there's the Leona ban definitely don't want Mind Warrior playing that champion again. I did really quickly want to mention Mind Warrior's champion pool here has to be the most aggressive I've ever seen out of any support that I've casted in Amateur, right? Set, Pike, Lux, and Blitzcrank are the top 4 most played champions for this player. So really, I'm like not exactly mind blown by Mind Warriors playing in game 1, but with this Leona banned away here, I'll probably see something a little bit more aggressive here. We'll have to wait and see.
They're going to also double down here, possibly hovering the Blitzcrank in this spot. And I mean, if you want to play enchanters, Blitzcrank is the bane of all enchanters, right? Because you can flip the lane instantly off of just one good hook. It doesn't matter how far ahead you are, it's just that easy to flip the lane because of Blitzcrank. And he also has that comeback ability in any game as well. If you land the proper hook, the perfect target, you will immediately surge back in. But MGE, they go ahead, lock themselves in the Misfortune, which did very well in the previous game, but more importantly, like, again, it showcased everything she can do. You can play around her, you can play away from her, you can let the support row make plays in lane or out of lane. There's so much you can do with this champion at the moment that teams just aren't drafting to counter it. You're not going for range, you're not trying to go for a hard scaling, but the Jinx could be one of those answers. Has an okay lane phase into the MF. Definitely not great in the 2v2, but depending on the support, might be able to shift the calculus there.
Yeah, I mean, if Ben is looking to stay in the bot lane and buff up bags on an 80 carry, I feel like Lulu's the way to do it. And I feel like even if you do go around to roam on Lulu, it's not the worst, right? I feel like help picks with Glitterlance is a very good ganking tool for you to help out your other lanes. And not to mention Polymorph as well, or Whimsy rather, gives movement speed in addition to its attack speed as well. So definitely can help out a lot of those lanes, where Rel on the other side is definitely going to be a real good pick for this Misfortune, but seeing it into the Lulu as a response, I'm not exactly sure I like it.
Yeah, again, we saw it in game number 1, right? The melee versus enchanter matchup, and the enchanter is going to just win that lane time and time again. It's just a matter of what do you do with this melee support. Are you able to roam around the map to make plays for your squad? And once again, we see the Graves come out here. I believe Jinjin has played the Graves up in the top lane, so there is the flex potential in that regard, being able to play a very strong top laner in that top side, and it will be the Hecarim locked in for Kronos. I actually would have liked to see the shakeup because you just provide so much of that unseen threat, right?
Yeah.
Because you always have to account for, if I push up too far, Shaco could possibly jump right in behind me and backstab me.
Yeah.
As we are into the second ban phase.
Yeah, I'm really liking this Hecarim pickup here. I think I love Hecarim and Lulu together. Lulu definitely a champion that takes a whole lot of picks that are sort of half tanks and turns them into full tanks with Wild Growth. And Wild Growth, I feel, as an offensive option is very good when you have a very hard engage that Hecarim does, right? Onslaught of Shadows is such a strong ability for a hard engage here, and compared with Wild Growth just makes Hecarim very, very strong. And after all the nerfs to Turbo Chem Tank, it's going to be okay, we have a mistake ban here. Okay, so Yumi is supposed to be on the blue side for MGE, and Silas was supposed to be a ban for Depth Esports here, as the final ban coming out is going to be the Camille for the top lane, which I think is a pretty good pickup here. Camille is in a bit of Jolini's match history as well, and Jolini did a pretty good job on the GP in the top lane into a matchup that was supposed to be, you know, not favored for the GP, and putting them onto a champion like a Camille could be devastating, as we now see a Seraphine hover for movement in the mid lane.
Seraphine could go into that mid lane. Also, could be a solo lane Lulu. Now that we do have this up on our screen, and it makes a lot of sense why MGE would ban the Yumi in that case, because of that possible flex potential in this situation. Now, MGE Vex, I believe is enabled, would be actually a pretty powerful pick. And it will be Victor, and it will be yet another Alawi hover. Could just lock it in once more. Yep. So
Yeah.
it will be locked in once again. I would say it's really just to put him on his most comfortable champion, and also just to try and keep Jolini from participating in these team fights. Keep him isolated, keep him stuck in that 1v1, because if he isn't able to help out his team, there's more than enough team fight prowess coming in from these MGE players that you feel confident in that 4v4. But this is a very intriguing pick. The Kale gets locked in. You're looking for late game scaling. You have double Enchanter. You have double backline, insane scaling backline champs. And then you have a Hecarim. So this is, once more, a lot of scaling, but we need to see the early game execution coming in from Depth Esports.
Yeah, and I feel like it's really going to be on the shoulders of Ben and Kronos, really, to facilitate this early game. It's very, very important to see how they're going to roam around the map, because Victor into Seraphine is just going to be awful for Seraphine, because she's not going to get that, you know, someone is with me, so I have some better abilities, I have some better mana regeneration and things like that. Like, she's not going to get those bonuses, right, unless Kronos shows up, right? And then in the bot lane, this is a lane where Ben might have to babysit Bags here, whereas like Anticha is on Misfortune, who's a kind of a low econ champion, can just sit there in the bot lane and push pretty hard. You know, Jinx is going to have a much harder time, right? Does have those rockets, and the mana cost is a little lower now at level 1, but you know, it's still going to be just pretty tough in that bot lane for Bags up against Anticha.
The big thing here is, I think when you look at this draft compared to previous draft, what made that previous draft work, at least on paper wise, was the fact that you can play low econ on your GP or on your Ezreal and focus resources into the other one. But this time around, they've gone the opposite direction. These are two very resource heavy side lanes in the Jinx and in the Kale. So it'll be interesting to see how they allocate resources. That will be a big deal. And then just what's going into the mid lane. Is it going to be the Lulu, or is it going to be the Seraphine? Both champs are okay. They're fine into the Victor, because the Victor takes time to really ramp up, to be able to constantly shove these waves. And I think both these champions will be able to get early priority to help out the Hecarim early on. But it's just a matter of how do you transition some of that early game pressure to mitigate the resulting pressure from Mind Warrior.
Yeah, I mean, Mind Warrior is really going to be running rampant in this map again. You have to be able to place a whole lot of defensive warbs to see where this Rel is going to be going. Now, luckily, Rel is a champion similar to Leona, where she's very binary. Once she goes in, it's very hard for her to get out, right? And with this Lulu, now that we are confirmed that she is in the support position, Lil Ben playing that Lulu down in the support position, Mind Warrior is going to have a whole lot more trouble ganking some of these lanes if Lil Ben matches the roams from Mind Warrior.
And that's the big thing here, is Lil Ben needs to be on point when it comes to at least warding out for mid and bot lane, to try and control where this Rel goes, or just matching that roam, making sure that whatever lane does get ganked, you have the Lulu shields, you have the Whimsy to neutralize the impacts of this early focus team on MGE. And I mean, Yes, you have scaling in that mid lane. You have okay scaling in this bottom lane and pretty solid scaling in the grids. By all means, the scaling isn't bad on MGE. Just, it's so tantalizing when you have Kale, when you
Yeah.
have Jinx, when you have double enchanters. The ceiling is off the roof for
Yeah.
depth, but the floor is also very, very low.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really tough for depth this game, right? Like you said, this early game really is going to be facilitated by Mind Warrior and Boogster here, just kind of roaming around the map. I mean, Boogster is going to take a little bit longer to get off the ground, rather. Kronos, I'm really going to be looking to him to see if he's going to be roaming around the map, really making these ganks happen, right? Because once again, you said it, like their eggs are all in the late game basket in the bot lane here. Bag's taking a whole bunch of damage to below half HP, but Mind Warrior taking a whole lot in response. Yeah, it doesn't look... Oh, okay, we're getting the re-engage back onto Jinx here, but Anti just super far away. Mind Warrior is also slower after getting off the horse. Gonna take a whole lot of damage in response. This level 1 Mind Warrior's in a whole lot of trouble. Flashes forward, gets the summoner here. They're looking for the re-engage here. That's gonna be the exhaust coming down onto Anti as well. Mind Warrior also taken incredibly low. All right, this level 1 is a wash, but a whole lot of summoner spells were spent on both sides. Mind Warrior still does have that Hex Flash, but it's not the normal flash. It's just going to be not as good. So, about equal summoner spells spent on both sides. Level 2 advantage now is on the red side.
But the big thing here is the health differential. Both of the bigger damage dealing champions in this lane phase are healthier. But the issue is Bags, well, he needs to recall. He can't stick around to try and farm out. But Mind Warrior might have gone a little bit too far.
Ooh, yeah, that is not good. Went into a warded bush as well. And man, that's really not a good start for MGE here. Kind of like their, I don't want to say their star player, but the MVP of game 1 going down so quickly and into a lane that wants to scale as well. And this is a real good start for the Jinx. However, going to get some little bit more free farm, but did not get that first blood.
And the bigger thing here is the Lulu can fight you a lot earlier than a Yuumi. Yuumi, you want a couple of levels and get the larger heals, larger damage on your Q, but when you are Lulu, you're very much focused around these auto attack trades, and that makes you a lot more punishing if that bot lane melee support ever screws up any of those engages. And you saw there, he messed up once and he lost an entire arm and a leg.
Yeah, Mind Warrior also Hex flashing into the mid lane here. Not going to be able to find anything onto the movement, but the movement is running low on mana and had to spend that flash as well. So that's going to be probably a lane that we're probably going to be seeing in just a little bit, getting a re-gank as Graves has now backed and looking to probably full clear again as the Krugs have just respawned. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Meanwhile, on the top lane, Jolini. I think this is a pretty similar lane to the first lane where Jinjin is just staying outside of range and just dealing damage with that spirit to Jolini, now having to deal with all these tentacles all over the place.
Yeah, it's going to be, I would say, an even better matchup than the one before. Still, plenty of raw damage from Malawi that you need to deal with, but okay.
Oh yeah, Mind Warrior getting in here. The stun matchup
Low,
is good.
flash.
Flashing forward, trying to get that last bit of damage,
Big
but Hell Pix is
shield.
going to give them a shield for just a little bit longer. So they're going to survive. No kill in the bot lane just yet, but that is a flash spent by Lil Ben, and you're going to have to back as well.
Right, but this is still a good lane, look for this bottom lane. We'll see if they are able to execute a dive in that bot side onto the Jinx, but it does look like we have the recall coming in from Mind Warrior. And Lil Ben, for this next fight, will have exhaust available. So this bot lane in a very, very comfortable spot, much different from the previous game where they weren't able to force the issue if Mind Warrior left the lane, but when you do have the Lulu, she can kind of walk up. She has a lot more options available to her, to the average solo queue player. And, well, okay, level 6 on Jinjin.
Yeah, looking for the engage in the top lane, but just throwing out a whole lot of damage onto this Jinx here. Xanticha might actually be able to get away from Kronos here. A little messed up, just the engage just a little bit as Kronos now throwing out those little choppers right there. Mind we're trying to get away. There's so much range damage coming through. Might not have been able to. Oh, yeah, we do have Bookster up in this top side. They're prepping the dive. Jolene is really, really low, but does have that Kale ultimate, but didn't pop it soon enough. Bookster is going to get a whole bunch of real quick damage onto the Kale. Going to pick up the kill as well. The movement has teleported into this top lane. That's going to be Seraphine ultimate coming across. Jin underneath the turf for just a little bit longer. Bookster and Heppo are here as well. They're prepping the dive one more time. They have a teleport coming in from Kale. Once again, still has that ultimate available. Red team has slain the dragon on the bot side, but with that teleport from Jolene, the blue team is going to make their way away from this top side. They don't want to 3v2 a Kale underneath her with the full health and an ultimate. Not going to be a fun time for them. So they're backing away. Gray's doing a bit of counter jungling. We're resetting.
And really well played coming in from MGE. You actually saw the movement tried to go for a 1v1 kill onto Jin, capitalize, use that ultimate, catch him under tower with that last minion dying. But the thing was, someone stepped in, make sure they took one tower shot, prevented that from eliminating the Alawi. But now in this bottom lane, plenty of teleports, and now Lil Ben is dead. But the trading is continuing up top side.
Yeah, Jin is looking for a little bit more, but the press the attack on Kale is so good. Gonna use the ultimate to finish off Jin in the top lane. And yeah, Kale is level 6, which means she's finally a champion, which means she can finally just fight. But now Mind Warrior looking for the stun on the HG's good packs. They're gonna be able to find the kill. Heppo is gonna be able to find that last bit of damage. Mind Warrior is now gonna be able to pick up that kill. Kronos running away. Looks like this horse is gonna get away from the horse and rider. So that means that the blue team is now free to pick up some turret plates for themselves.
MG, when it comes to playmaking, they are still up to the task in depth. Once more, just at least they're able to answer a little bit better. You see them playing more cognizant of their defensive vision. They've gone for defensive wards. They've gone for defensive roams. And I think what I'm seeing this time from Death is a lot better than what I saw from game number 1. So there's still, if you're a Death Esports fan here, there's plenty of hope this time around in game number 2 because of the early game responses from this one.
Yeah, I definitely think this is pretty different from what we saw. I love the Lulu pick instead of the Yuumi here already. I'm liking it because of just how much more Lulu just offers your team. Honestly, like if Lil Ben doesn't want to roam around the map, if Lil Ben doesn't want to roam around as much as Mind Warrior does and wants to 2v2, then this Lulu is definitely a much better pick than the Yuumi. I'm loving this pick so far, and it's definitely really good into the Rel as well. And remember, Rel was picked after the Lulu here, so this was a pick that was in response, and it's not exactly a really good matchup for the Rel. I mentioned earlier that it's a very binary champion. Once Rel goes in, it's very hard for her to get out. And against a Lulu who's going to polymorph you once you go in, it's going to be even tougher, and sometimes you'll even die.
Yeah, and when you look at their engage options, they only have the Rel for an engage, and now looking for a Hex Flash.
Yeah, it does dive forward. Not going to be able to get the knock up on the crash down here. And throw out the make it rain just for a little bit of poke damage, but Hell Pix is going to neutralize some of that. Mind Warrior still looking for more, keeps remounting, trying to find an engage onto this Lulu here, but all they're finding is a whole lot of damage on the anti-jump. Look at them, below half HP right now.
Yeah, and a lot better with the spacing this time around from Death Esports, maintaining the range. And it's paying off big dividends. Mind Warrior definitely not in as great of a spot as in this previous game, but movement could get picked off. He's going to stand his ground, actually.
Yeah, that's going to be the snare thrown out here. Going to be the snare thrown out, but not going to be able to find a whole lot after that. It looks like the blue team is just their turn to throw out a whole lot of vision around this dragon buff right here as they're looking for the second Drake here. It's going to be that ocean Drake here, which once again, we could get another Cloud Soul, or we could get a Mountain Soul. those two are on the table for this map.
On the table.
Heppo coming in from the side here. Has thrown out the gravity well. Not going to be able to land the stun. The minion wave isn't there yet, so Bags is going to take a whole lot of damage. Bullet time comes across, not going to be able to find the kill. Kronos is here as well. That's going to be the Seraphine ultimate. That's huge. Going to pick up 1 kill. Vladimir is going to go forward, make it a 1 for 2 as the double kill comes out for Kronos here in this bot lane as a very, very good counter dive. Comes down from depth. Esports going to be able to pick up 2 kills for themselves while only losing Jinx.
And they've done it. This time around, they read the dive. And they respond properly to it. They are there in perfect timing before the dive is executed on that wave. They're able to split up the fights into essentially 2 4v2 moments. Now they're going to be able to claim themselves a second dragon as well. So Deft Esports making a lot better plays to respond in game number 2, and it set themselves up insanely well going into this mid game with the amount of scaling that they have and with how far behind Mind Warrior is, because compared to the Leona, who has a lot of built-in defensive stats because of the W, it's not as much for this Rel pick.
Yeah, now Mind Warrior trying to flex their muscles once more, but they have to be just a little bit more careful here. I do kind of like the aggression here from Mind Warrior. If he's able to set up a really good engage here, Anti-Chuck could just do so much damage. Did just pick up the Eclipse, so this is going to be a Make It Rain plus bullet time combo that is going to do so much damage to anyone that isn't building armor. And right now, that's the entire enemy team. Not a single person has built any armor yet. So for a while with this lethality that Anti-Cha has picked up here, this is going to be doing a whole lot, especially with the amount that Graves has built. But it's going to be the Crash Down and the Magnet Storm as well. They're looking for an opportunity to throw out this Bullet Storm. There it is, going to get the decent chunk of damage, but Bags is not going to be able to go down here. Now there's a bit of damage in response, but Bags is so incredibly low here. They are in some trouble if Mind Warrior wants to turret dive.
Possibly in trouble, but it doesn't look like they're going to look to pull the trigger there. Of course, it is still Lulu with an exhaust available, so you still have plenty of safety in that regards. But Books.
Now Bookster diving forward on the bot lane here, looking for the kill on the movement, throws out the ultimate, but that's going to be the Chaos Storm coming down with the kill for Heppo here in the mid lane here as the blue team picking up this Scuttle Crab, spotting out Lil Ben as well. Blue team is going to grab and summon the Rift Herald in the mid lane, and they're going to pick up the Scuttle Crab in the bot. So a whole lot of big macro moves being made by MGE here, trying to get themselves a gold lead, and it looks like they have succeeded so far with about 3.1k gold in their favor.
Gold lead secured for MGE, and this is a good spot, but they kind of need to keep snowballing this, and they're going to try to.
Yeah, they have a teleport coming in from the Seraphine in here, but she gets trapped up inside the gravity well, which means Kronos is in a 1v3 by himself, and so is Mind Warrior, but they're able to get away, flashing forward, trying to find this Rel, can't quite find it. The blue buff is picked up by Bookster here. Super Mega Death Marker comes across, but not going to be able to CC the Horse and Rider this time. That's going to be the Crash Down. Movement is taken incredibly low. Heppo is going to be the one picking up the kill, and at the end of that, they're going to be able to go 1 for 0, but I think they're looking for more. Jinjin did just teleport in, flashes forward onto Bags here, use that Gore Drinker as well, trying to find that ultimate, but doesn't need it. Bookster's going to be slaying Bags down in this mid lane, so they do get a couple of kills, but Jolene, meanwhile, in the top lane with this Gnasher's Tooth, is going to be grabbing that top lane turret for sure.
And the big thing here is just the combination of Glacial Augment with the Stride Breaker, applying a large slow to make sure Bags had nowhere to go, had no options to get out in, and it starts with movement in that last play, overextending a little bit too far, trying to secure that kill onto Mind Warrior. But remember, Mind Warrior is just a support. Even if you do get the kill onto him, there's plenty of damage elsewhere that they could just immediately turn on you and just pop you. Ends up dying for free without even getting the response, and things starting to go from bad to really, really worse for Deft Esports.
Yeah, I wouldn't count them out just yet. I think Jolene is starting to get to that Kale level right now. They're very, very close. Yeah, level 11, sitting on a Nashor's Tooth as well, and starting to build towards that, I believe it's the Rift Maker, as it's just a really, really strong, like, Kale is a champion that I think scales the best with levels, right? She's, the second that she hits that max level and has 2 items under her belt, or even just 1, it's going to be real tough to fight her, but this could be Jinjin popping that ultimate in the top lane, trying to heal as much as possible. That's going to be Jolene popping that ultimate as well in order to survive for just a little bit longer, but did have their soul ripped out, so they're going to have to deal with some tentacles for just a little bit longer.
At the same time, you definitely love Jolene's spot, right? Again, you mentioned already has the Nashor's Tooth. Once he gets that Rift Maker, more than enough healing to deal with this Alawi pick. And with how easy it is for this Kale to just shove out the waves, at the very least, you're going to be able to play around this one champion. And then when you look at some of these team fights, like, you've got more than enough shields and heals to be able to withstand something like a bullet time if this MF isn't continuously pushing forward with her pace. You might even look to see her build this Serpent's Fang. Yes, Serpent's Fang, stats-wise, has been neutered quite a bit, but the big thing is you are able to reduce the impact of those shields, and now the movement is the dead.
Yeah, the movement is really the dead, as now Mind Warrior might be in a similar situation right here, has to go in the opposite direction, not take turret damage, but walks into the enemy team in response. And now it's a 3v3, but Kronos is looking for more. Bookster's going to pop that Youmuu's Ghost Blade, trying to get away, but they're fighting 1v1 against Kronos really well. Bax has finally shown up, scares Graves away from the Hecarim, but they do have a teleport coming into this top lane here to fight the split push by the Alawi. A fight ends 1-for-1, trading mid laner for support.
Big trade there. Ends up going even for depth, but you like any even trades at this point in the game. For decided that as they are the ones behind, they have still the better scaling. And once more, I have to be a little bit critical of Kronos. I don't mind.
Wait a minute. Jinlook in the top lane here, going to throw out the ultimate here, trying to heal back up as much as possible, but Jolene now just does too much damage. Super Mega Death Rocket did come across, but not going to be able to kill Bookster. It is a 1-for-1 of the top lane, as both top laners are traded for each other.
Right, but it's a kill going into the hands of Jolene, so you love that he's able to secure that. He's further ahead, and now Bax, this is not a good spot.
Yeah, Bax has just been
at risk.
Yeah, Bax has just been bullied this entire series. Just one after another dive onto this player here. Is now Kronos waiting in the wings. Mind Warrior is snared up, but it doesn't look like he has a good introduction into this fight, so it looks like they're just going to pick up this tier 2 turret back away.
My criticism here for Kronos is, why the Lucidity boots? Is there a reason why we need the extra CDR? Yes, it's great to have it onto your Ghost to try and make some plays, but it's not like we've been staying in this lane phase up until 18-20 minutes. Right. These have been, lane phases that have ended around the 15-minute mark, which, if this is your solo queue game, you can expect lane phases to go longer, perhaps, and be able to get more usage out of that ghost spell. But in this spot, you just need to be a little bit burlier, be a bit tankier to make sure that these shields get maximum effectiveness, get the extra tank stats, so when you just have that much more effective HP, and he's just not doing it with this boot selection.
Yeah, and I agree with that as well. I mean, I don't want to get too critical on it, because I think the difference between boots are pretty small. I do agree with you that maybe plated steel caps here are a little bit better, or maybe even Swifties, right? Because that's going to synergize a little bit more with Hecarim, but maybe he's just looking to get more. Yeah, definitely a lot of slows on the enemy team as well. As now, yeah, it looks like they're just fighting over some chickens. I know KFC is pretty good. They got that new chicken sandwich, but I don't know if you need 4 people to fight over it. But Okay, they're gonna deal a decent chunk of damage here. Gingy might be in some trouble. Jolini's
chase.
definitely looking to fight, but there's a lot of tentacles around here. I don't know if you want this. That's gonna be the ultimate popped as well. That's a whole lot of damage. Look at that spirit HP going down immediately. Jolene is definitely in some trouble, surrounded by so many tentacles. Can they get the last bit of damage? Absolutely. Jin Lung is gonna be able to pick up the kill on the Jolini in the bot lane.
Has a completed Hullbreaker as well. So when you are in this isolated 1v1 matchup, that is a lot better. And combined with the rune choice with the Stridebreaker, I love this build coming in from Jin. We don't see a whole lot of Alawi, so it's very difficult to read how good this champion is. But now taking this Baron buff, this is going to make this Alawi pick even better. Hullbreaker, Baron buff, and with this Glacial Augment, you can't get away from her. This is prime time for Jin Lung.
Yeah, it's looking really, really good as well. It's just so good how the way he's been playing. It's been really close too. Like Jolini has been getting really, really close to getting the kill, but you know, close only matters in horseshoes and hand grenades. So, you know, Jin Lung is going to be the one coming out on top in a lot of these, and he's been playing really well. I love Hullbreaker. I'm just sad that they nerfed it and took the pirate hat off of the cannon minions, honestly. Like, that's messed up, right? Please put the pirate hat back on the cannon minions with Hullbreaker. That was like my favorite thing about the item, and then you just randomly took it away in PvE.
I mean, they took away the cigar, so...
Yeah, I mean, but it's a pirate hat! Come on!
Yeah, you can't have nice things.
Yeah, we can't have nice things. Jin Luck,
Jin.
taking a whole bunch of damage here, but there's the response! Holy moly, that bullet time did so much damage. Mind Warrior does find the intro here, but gonna get charmed up. Taking a decent chunk of damage, but it's... Hello? Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty.
I'm surprised?
Yeah, we're gonna get a bit of a pause. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
So, luckily, MGE... It looked like for a second they were like, huh, that guy's probably DC'd and stopped attacking him from what it looked like. But yeah, so we're going to take just a quick pause to make sure that they are connected to the game. And so we can give you a good one here. But yeah, this is Jin Luck's doing real well. And even when getting dived by that Jinx, or getting chased by the Jinx rather, he was still looking pretty strong. And that bullet time, insane amounts of damage right now.
Yeah, I mean, they are still snowballing over on the side of MG Eclipse, and for the side of Depth Esports, you are getting your scaling in. You are seeing that, right? You have the double enchanter that was able to keep the Jinx alive. Unfortunately, it could have looked a lot better. They probably could have even turned that fight, to be honest, if the Lulu was connected, but unfortunately wasn't in that situation, unable to actually get those button keys pressed for that Jinx to really be able to look to turn that fight. And Jin, going back to this Alawi pick, I love what it is doing on the map. Again, this is a pick that if you're looking for it to team fight, probably not going to do very well, because you've got Hullbreaker, which is very reliant on being in an isolated situation. But when he is in that situation, he's doing very, very well for himself.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, whenever I see an Alawi pick, she does do really well into the 1v1, but a lot of times, you know, the first thing that pops into my head are those Twitter clip moments where they're like, oh yeah, 5 people inside my ultimate, I'm gonna never die, right? So my thought is always, oh yeah, Alawi, 5v5 team fighter. But you know, they're really showing us right now, or Jin is really showing us that this is one of the side wave pressure champions to play right now, right? That's the reason why folks are playing Jace. That's the reason why folks are playing even Camille still, right? Because they can, or not Camille, rather, more, yeah, Jace. Some of these folks
Jax,
are really, really
Camille,
good into the side wave.
Irelia.
Yeah, really, really good into the side waves to take those folks who do want to 5v5 team fight away from their advantageous position and put them into a 1v1, right? Kayle is good in a 1v1, right? Because she does have that that ultimate, but during that time she's not auto attacking, right? So she is doing effectively less damage in a 1v1 to basically make herself invulnerable for a little bit, and then when she leaves, Alawi, it still looked like she was healing through that invulnerability.
Yeah, and for the kill is really to try and disengage and reset the situation when you do use your ult on yourself in the 1v1. And I mean, the big thing here is as long as you're able to maintain distance, the Kale will win. But Jinjin's been doing a very good job with his rune selection, with his itemization, that it's very difficult to keep the Alawi at arm's length, which is why in the 5v5 situation, they should have a lot more success because you look at how much range is packed into that squad. You have two enchanters. That's two range supports. You have two essentially AD carries in the Kale, in the Jinx, feasibly in a straight up front to back. That Alawi will never ever come close to that back line. The issue is they haven't been forced into that situation. Now, this Baron buff is just going to exacerbate that problem.
Yeah, we are going to get back into game in just a little bit. Yeah, you're right. Like if a 5v5 team fight ever happens, I feel like it's just going to be Alawi waiting for that Twitter moment to happen where like the entire enemy team is inside her ultimate, but it's just never going to happen, right? As a team, like you said, having 4 ranged champions going into a team that wants you to cluster up and be real tight for that misfortune ultimate, it's never going to happen, right? And if it does, Kale is going to be able to save at least one person, and then Seraphine could interrupt your ultimate, right? There's a lot of instances where Misfortune probably can't be as successful as she has been in these kind of smaller skirmishes.
Yeah, and while they have the lockdown coming in from the Rel, really it's just the Rel that can facilitate the rest of the composition. And so that's a lot of onus onto a champion that isn't going to be very durable. Has, of course, the passive to help out in that regard. And maybe that is why we see the Hecarim not going for armor boots or the Merc Treads, or just really any defensive boots here. It could have been the Swifties in this regard as well. But yeah, so a lot on the plate for Mind Warrior. We'll see if he's able to close out here. But it looks like this pause is going to extend a little bit longer. Oh, just kidding.
Okay, I just got word from HQ. We're going back in. All right, Super Mega Death Orca comes across. There's going to be a Shadow Unleash as well. Mind Warrior is taken incredibly low, has to use that crash down in order to get away. Heppo is now on the other side of the fight, but look at this burst damage onto Jolini, forcing out the ultimate here. Now they're diving back in. Boogster and Jinjin are looking for the fight. They're trying to find that 5v5 we were talking about, but they're able to get away. Depth Esports gets away, and with that, MGE is looking to take that inhibitor turret and maybe even the inhibitor as well.
Should be a free inhib here as they do have the Baron buff minions. There's not fast enough regen coming in from the fountain to get them out onto the map to contest it. They'll have to give that up.
Ooh, they do have a... Yeah, they do also have a pretty big wave in the bot lane as well. Looks like they're going to be pushing in with that as well.
Yep, and also looking at the top side, you have Jinjin pushing on top. Hullbreaker, of course, still on him. So they will be able to crash that wave and claim that tier 2. But you're not too worried about giving up the tier 2. You're more so looking to try and defend this tier 3 if they try and aggress towards that. And also hopefully hold this inhib down into the spot side. But it doesn't look like they're interested in doing so.
Yeah, they're spending a whole lot of time trying to poke them down, but not a whole lot of initiation here. They do not have the ultimate economy in order to go into this fight here. Seraphine ultimate is down. Shadows, Onslaught of Shadows is also down, which means Wild Growth is not as powerful as it could be. And Super Mega Death Orca is an execute. Jinx isn't going to use it unless they can shortly get the kill as Boogster tries to go over the wall. Going to be successful here. Not going to fall this time as the red team now going to lick their wounds, try to push out the waves in their favor. It's going to be very hard with 2 lanes of super minions pushing into their base.
At least they do have a lot of wave clear. You have the Seraphine, you have the Jinx, you have the Kale. They're going to be perfectly fine clearing out these minion waves. But the bigger concern is, of course, the fact that MGA, they already have 2 mountain dragons. If you're looking at the penetration items being built up on the side of depth, they don't have it. You're looking at the Phantom Dancer being completed by this Jinx pick. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later. It is completed now, and you're looking at Lord Dominic's regard. Once that is completed, then it really improves their chances of finding that big team fight. But at the moment, you're very, very reliant on Jolini to be able to hard carry these fights because the true damage coming in from the Riftmaker is really the only thing that's going to allow them to punch through this composition on MGE.
Yeah, and I honestly, I would have liked the Jinx to just forego the Phantom Dancer and gone right for the Lord Dominic's regards, right?
Yep.
You have Lulu right there, and you have a lot of attack
Yes.
speed built into your kit. I don't think you really need another attack speed item, considering that you already have a Kraken Slayer and Berserker's Greaves. Like, maybe picking up a Lord Dominic's would have been a whole lot better here than another attack speed item on the Jinx, right? Definitely,
It's
like you said,
something-
very good until a lot of the resistance is built by MGE
Yeah.
right now.
Something she could have pivoted towards otherwise could have been something like a Runance to get more damage out, but now they engage.
Yeah, that's the Magnet Storm and the stun putting down to the red team, taking them incredibly low here. Going to be Mind Warrior is going to be able to pick up that kill in the bag. Says meanwhile, Jin is just tanking up these turrets. Finally goes down to
Good turn.
Jolini, so it's a 1-for-1 now. But there's so many
Up front
minions
blinking,
pushing into
though.
the base right now. It's going to be really, really tough. There's one turret going down. The second quick to fall. This the Shadows
They need
Onslaught
to make
trying to
it
down the
stand.
anti-chaw right now, but taken incredibly low. Look at the minions right now. They're pushing onto this base. They have another wave coming in. It's going to be really tough. Here comes the next wave of super minions. Anti-Chug really wants this turret, but that's going to be their prize for this time around. They're not able to close out the game just yet, but the depths base is in tatters. There's nothing left for them to defend other than the Nexus.
That's going to put them into a tough position. At the very least, they don't need to contest this next dragon, which means by the time Soul Dragon comes through, they will have all three inhibs respawned at that time. So you're going to be looking for MGE Eclipse to try and make a push to reclaim all of those inhibs before the Soul Dragon comes up. But for the time being, Depth are going to be stuck in the base. They're not looking to come out, ward out here, because the moment that they do, there is the possibility of double teleport from Jinjin, from Heppo, and you know, with the Hull Breaker, even if it's just the Alawi coming through, has plenty of damage with those extra super minions to be able to backdoor.
Yeah, and it looks like the blue team is just taking this opportunity to take every neutral objective off the map from the red team. They picked up that very easy dragon, and now they're all making their way towards this Baron as well. I'm not exactly sure why Alawi is in the bot lane right now. I mean, there's nothing left to push there. I guess it's to keep folks away from the Baron, but I don't even think Depth wants to 5v5 team right now.
They
Yeah.
need this.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge pickup for them as well, but it looks like they're finally going to back off here at the end of it. Is now Boogster, hello, is going to be picking up the Baron, securing them up for that team. And now look at the top wave. Look how many super minions are in that top wave right now. They have the Baron buff. They gotta be marching down into this base through that top side. Okay, just as I say that, Kale is just immediately clearing out that whole wave.
Look for this Hecarim to engage sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's going to be the ultimate coming down from Malawi on the backside here. The bullet time is going to be able to pick up the kill on the Seraphim as Jolie is looking for something in response. Not going to be able to find it now. Kronos is in some trouble here. That's going to be the ultimate coming down from Graves, taking incredibly low. Kronos is going to be the next to fall. There's only 2 members of the red team left. Can they make a final stand? 2v5. Can you defend your hopes? It doesn't look like they're going to be able to come out on top this time as the red team's Nexus explodes, and MG Eclipse is going to be taking this series 2-0.
MG Eclipse coming out incredibly strong here. They move up to 4-1 in very, very dominant fashion. I mean, all the series that they've won, I believe, have been 2-0. So going into playoffs, this is a team to really keep an eye out for, because they come out with such aggression here. And while the ceiling was, again, very, very high for that composition coming in from Depth Esports, the floor and consistency coming in from the MGE draft was a lot more reliable, and they were also able to execute it a lot more comfortably than the side of Depth were.
Yeah, for sure. As this is such a real good showing from MG Eclipse, and personally, I had a whole lot of question marks coming into this game because the last time this team had shown up on stream and actually played a game at all was about 3 weeks ago, and they were able to 2-0 AOE Psycho. You know what?
Mhm.
The kind of the bottom rung team, and then after that, were had a forfeit and a bye. So coming into this game, I was like, okay, they haven't really played since week 2,
Yep.
right? You know, we're not exactly sure how this squad is going to play. They're also bringing in a sub as well with Anticha. So there's a whole lot of question marks. But you know, at the end of the day, they proved me wrong. Yeah, I mean, they just like, okay, your question, get them out of here. Like, I don't know why you're question mark pinging me. We're great. We're awesome. We're gonna win this game. We're gonna win this series 2-0 pretty handily as well.
It was extremely dominant. So credit goes out to that MG organization. And for the side of Depth Esports, loving the draft. We just need to come online in game number one a lot earlier. I love the responses in game number two. They were trying to make moves to stabilize that game. Unfortunately, it got away from them. But you really have to look at game number one as what could have been, because if that was a bit better showing, perhaps they came out with even a 3 out of 10 effort instead of a, I felt like it was a 0 in that first game. Then you bump it up in what was a 4, it felt like in this one.
Right.
It could have been something like a 7 or an 8, and if you look at the performance level at that point, then you're really starting to cook with something in that game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Depth Esports really came into their own a little bit more in game two. You know, I think both of us threw some question marks at that draft. We were just like, hey, there's a whole lot of scaling here and not a whole lot anything to kind of facilitate or help that
Mhm.
scaling, right? And you know, once like Jolini and Bags was able to get at least somewhat close, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough because MG Eclipse was just so far ahead by the time Jolini and Bags were really starting to come online with those second and third items, and it was just real tough to come back from that position.
Mhm. It was a tough game by all means, so not gonna bag on them
Yeah,
too hard per se, uh, but
yeah,
again, very well done from MG Eclipse. And when it comes to playoffs, they'll have to be one of the big teams to keep watch of.
yeah. But that's going to do it from us here. Thank you all so much for tuning in this evening and GG's to both teams. Congratulations to MG Eclipse winning this series 2-0. Thank you all once again. Thank you all so much for tuning in. For myself, the entire live broadcast crew here at Unified, myself, Shinkari, myself, Nightstar, my co-caster, and Hyper, our producer for this evening. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, press that follow button. We've got League of Legends and many other esports for you all to watch every single week. And if you're feeling generous, press that subscribe button. But until the next time, we'll see you later. Bye bye.